Ya llegó la primavera de Home Depot. ¿Y tú? ¿En qué estás trabajando? ¿Qué tal si estrenas un nuevo set de patio? Agrega una tira de luces y crea el mejor ambiente para tus reuniones. ¿Y qué es una carne asada sin el asador ideal? Encuentra el tuyo dentro de una amplia selección de asadores por menos de $300, como el asador Next Grill con 4 quemadores por solo $229. No esperes más y empieza a disfrutar de la primavera con The Home Depot.
The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
Sometimes it feels like the world is moving at hyperspeed and you can't keep up because it's one thing then another. And don't forget the meeting and the yoga class and the dinner reservation. But then you get into the all-new Nissan Murano and you feel the breeze from the panoramic moonroof while the massaging seats melt away the tension of the day. And you realize that sometimes the greatest rush is not rushing at all. Shop the all-new Murano at nissanusa.com. Panoramic moonroof massaging leather appointed seats are available features.
Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. I am Matt.
This is Heather.
This is Derek.
And this is Alex.
And we are now on to episode 7 of the BTW pod. And we'd like to welcome in all our friends, new and old. Thank you for coming by and returning. If this is your repeat listening, huge thank you to everyone who has joined us so far, who has dropped a follow on our socials, on the podcast app of your choice, and left a review. If you haven't left a review yet, on Spotify, Apple, whatever it may be, just do a little scroll to the bottom of the show page. There should be an option to leave a review. Hit that 5 stars. It takes you 2 seconds, and it just makes our hearts feel warm and fuzzy. So it'd mean the world if you did that to help us out. We have an absolutely loaded show for you today with some Kraken news featuring Jordan Eberle's major injury. We have game recaps from the last week, our usual check-in with Coachella Valley, and our discussion around the sound table. And one last plug for us, a huge thank you to everyone who has picked up their BTW merch so far. We love seeing the orders coming in and checking out what different people are getting. So whether it be our logo, our text-based logo, our words, our Monty Mania logo. The Monty Mania one is flying off the shelves, so we can't wait to see those in people's hands. Thank you for supporting us and supporting the show. And if you want to know what I'm talking about and take a look, make sure you check out in the show notes where the link is. And just a little update for you, on Black Friday, there is a 30% off sale. So if you've been flopping back and forth on getting one of those pieces of Monty Mania gear, Friday, come on through the store and treat yourself. Gang, we had a pretty exciting week, although it started off pretty downer in the news department. Heather, what's our news briefing look like for the past couple days?
Well, I'm going to start with Jordan Eberle, but before I get into the bad news, can I give some good news first? Because I just want to give a huge congrats to Jordan and his wife on the birth of their daughter. Sounds like everything went really well. Everyone's healthy, so just very excited for their cute little family. And that happened on Monday. Basically, we found out while we were watching the game, so big congrats to them. That's a great piece of news. But on the other side of that, we know Jordan Eberle was injured in the Blackhawks game when he sort of got tangled up and crashed into the boards. We had heard it was some sort of injury and he was being evaluated and getting second opinions. And then on Friday, Coach Bylsma said that we'd have an update on Eberle later that day. And we were kind of chatting in our group chat that, like, that's not a good sign. Like, if it was a good thing, they would have just said it that morning. So we were sort of bracing for bad news. So a little bit later that day, it came out that he had had successful pelvis surgery and he'd be out a minimum of 3 months. We found out that he wouldn't be walking for at least 6 weeks. So that is just such a bummer for our captain. You know, he started the year off really strong. So it's sad when anybody gets injured, but especially when, you know, you've got somebody like that that makes such a difference in the locker room. It's really sad. So What does it mean for the team? Well, he's going to go on long-term injured reserve, and that frees up some cap space. So one of the things that we were worried about was when Dunn comes back, which I'll talk about in a second, that would leave us with a little bit of a cap squeeze. So now that's not really an issue because they could potentially go over by something like 4.7 million when Dunn comes back. So I mean, there's a lot that could happen. Nothing may happen, but the team could add a forward either with a trade or a waiver claim, but they'd still be in the same cap squeeze if Eberle does come back before the end of the season. I'm unsure how likely that is, but we'll kind of keep our fingers crossed and see. I'm always of the opinion to take a little extra time and recover the best that you can, but we'll see what happens. I am going to move on to Vince Dunn, though. We did have some good progress here. So Dunn is still injured, but he did go on the road trip with the team. He did not play against the Ducks on the road trip, but he was really just there to continue practicing with the team. He could possibly return later this week. We're hearing he is out of the red no contact jersey, so that's really positive. I always think, again, take your time and fully heal because I do think in the past he's come back too soon. And then he's had to just go back on injured reserve or just take time away from the game. So take your time, Dunn, but we're looking forward to having you back.
We could honestly end up maybe pulling a Vegas if the Kraken do end up adding another player and then end up somehow, our odds are at like 30% right now, but somehow make the playoffs. And then Ebbs comes back like right after the playoffs start. The cap doesn't exist, and yeah, we could do the thing that we always criticize Vegas for, maybe.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't expect Eberle to come back this season. A pelvis surgery is pretty intense. So, with him being out for 6 weeks without walking and then a minimum of 3 months being back in the lineup, like in my opinion, just keep him on the road to recovery, maybe extend that recovery time. And then if, like Derek said, if we squeeze into the playoffs, oh, look, hey, Jordan, oh, you're looking pretty fine. Yeah, you can slide into that second line. Oh, cap doesn't exist. Oh, wow. It's like we're Vegas, but we're not because we're better. So, yeah, but no, I definitely think that's something like that's to keep an eye out, but kind of agree with Heather on this one. Be shocked to see Eberle lace them back up for the Kraken this season.
Yeah, when you look at it, like we were talking right after a couple days ago when the news came out, and his wife had a post on Instagram like set up the room for Jay because he's not walking for the next 6 weeks, and it's like the most sterile looking, sad hospital bed in front of a TV basement suite because he can't do stairs and all that, and I just can't imagine being bedridden for 6 weeks, not even having the option to walk. And we were saying before we got on the call, like, I can't imagine if he has like the littlest sneeze that creeps in that he has to let out that just sends shockwaves through his body and reverberates through his pelvis. That it sounds rough. Hopefully, there's no hiccups in the recovery process. And I'm with what Heather was saying. Take your time. The team's doing half decent with him on the men, so if we can keep that going, maybe this is like the catalyst for motivation that we have for him to get back. The team will perform for their captain, stand up on the desks in the locker room and say, "Oh, captain, my captain," and go on a run.
One last thing I want to say about Eberle, and it's mainly to the fact about the captaincy, is the captaincy cursed? Like when you really think about it, we had Mark Giordano, he was the captain for like 6 weeks and then he just like flew away back to Toronto and that was the end of that. And then like we didn't have a captain. We had no identity. And then finally the season that we're like Jordan Eberle is the captain, the captain who's really been the true captain of the team since, Giordano left. And then it's not even December and we get the news that sorry, your captain's out for the next 3+ months. So I'm starting to think that is the captaincy voodoo.
I don't know if it's voodoo because it's such a small sample size, but maybe it's just the universe slapping the Kraken internet community in the face for week after week and day after day, saying who deserves the C on their chest, and they go, "Here you go. Here's
That
the
was
C."
Heather's favorite part of the offseason.
Yeah.
We brought this on ourselves. We did. We talked about it too much, and here we are.
Aside from the downer of the Jordan Eberle news, how are we feeling with our vibe check this week? We had 3 games since we last spoke. We went 2-1 in those 3 games. I'm feeling pretty good. We have some really strong silver linings coming through, especially Brandon Montour. He is now on a 3-game goal streak for the first time in his career, which is absolutely unreal. And we're going to talk about him more later on in the show. And I know that the teams that we beat are teams that we should beat, especially with Nashville looking super stacked on paper and then just turning into the flat tire that they apparently turned out to be this season. But I mean, they don't ask how, they ask how many. So I'll take the wins where we can get them.
Yeah, I actually don't feel super bad right now. I think just recency bias, maybe, but we're a little above 500, so gonna just sort of hold on to that for just a little bit while we can. I do think we have some games we can win coming up, so I think the team has some things to work on for sure, and I think that they know that. So I'm hoping that the answers that are coming are more than just put more pucks in the net, because that's just a answer that they keep giving and it's not happening. So it's kind of like we really need to move forward from that and figure it out. But I do think there's some positives. There are some things clicking. Defense has actually looked pretty good, all things considered. So we do have some strong things. Obviously, Joey is incredible. I don't know if he's like superhuman or what, but I have absolutely zero complaints or criticisms about him. So that is super positive. So some good things, some things to work on, but overall, I guess I'm feeling about at the 500 mark as well.
Yeah, I don't know if this is ever come across on the pod before. I've never explicitly stated this, but my vibes with the team kind of go up and down with the playoff odds. And our playoff odds currently are at 24.8%. And I said a couple weeks ago that if they don't get to 30% by the end of November, then I'm kind of like throwing in the towel in the year in terms of where I think we're going. We do have a chance to hit 30% by the end of the year if we beat the next two teams, which I think are the Ducks again and then the Sharks. So definitely like positive there. 3 players I want to highlight: a forward, a defenseman, and a goalie. All walk into a bar. No, I'm just kidding. Jared McCann, 22 points. He ranks 29th among forwards. So if you took one forward from each team, like the best forward from each team, he would be in there. Brandon Montour, 13th among defensemen in points. So, if you took if you took 2 defensemen from each team, he'd be there. Joey Decord, 4th in goals saved above expected. So like Vezina finalist. So we have like 3 all-star caliber level players, and we're still just so mid right now, and it's so unfortunate, and it pains me because all 3 of those guys that I just mentioned are having like career years. They're on pace for career years right now, and honestly, historic years for Joey. Like being the best goalie in the league is like a historic achievement, and he's close to that right now. It's just very unfortunate to see the record when you see like the underlying like how players are popping off. And I think it just speaks to how weak the underlying core is. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling.
I'm going to say I'm pretty positive, with a 2-1 record for the Kraken this week. That's a positive. But overall, the month of November has been promising. I didn't expect us to be this good, especially with how we started this season. So, coming out of a game against the Ducks and having another win, we're about 500. I'm taking it all as victories because the hockey gods haven't been too kind to us when it's come to injuries. Like you're looking at the players that have been injured. Like Vince Dunn is probably our 1A, 1B best defenseman. And then Jordan Eberle is our captain. He's our leader. And he's probably top 3 for offensive players on our team. So we're losing 2 solid players to injury, this early into the season, and we're still able to compete. So I'm looking at it right now as a positive. Just another echo to Joey Decord. He has been absolute lights out. I really do believe that he's going to contend for a Vezina this season. Like it's just clearly written. He's really motivated and he's reliable. Like some of the saves he makes is just inhuman. So that's one guy I really want to keep an eye out. And then the other 2 players, McCann has just been on a career year. He's point per game player. And just the final is Brandon Montour. He's the type of player that you never expected to show up, that the Kraken were able to sign and then be able to do what he's been doing this season. So can't complain. Those are the three players that I've been loving. And, there is that positive that, if we can string a couple wins together, a couple against the Sharks, another one against the Ducks, so those playoff odds increase, those point totals increase. We might be looking at a place that we can actually contend for a playoff spot. But like I said, it's still early in the season. Getting those three games out of the way and getting possibly another 6 points, even if we pull out 4 points out of those three games, it's going to be a positive. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the end of the month will look like, because I really do believe it might be a deciding factor if Ron pulls the trigger. I know people are going to say, well, he's already pulled the trigger. He already acquired Daniel Sprong. And I agree with everybody, because I feel like that's the type of move where, Francis is going to sit back in his chair and say, I've made the move. So that's just where I am, but that's what I think what's happening. Positive vibes this week. So yeah, keep it going.
And like we said, we went 2-1 this week in the games since we last recorded, starting off with game number 20 in Nashville. Derek, do you want to walk us through that game?
This was a stream game. It was correct me if I'm wrong, was it our 6th stream game?
Yes.
Okay, and it brought our record on stream to 5-0-1 because the Kraken won in devastating fashion, 3-0. And thanks to everyone who joined us on that stream, we were really vibing. It was our best stream for sure. Yeah, very strong offensive game by the Kraken. There was a very interesting start to the game that none of us had seen before, I don't think, where Jess Campbell and the coaching staff of the Kraken pointed out that Nashville did not start the lineup that they had declared they would start. So it actually resulted in a Nashville a Nashville penalty right off the bat. So we got to use our power play right off the bat. Chandler Stevenson opened up the scoring, setting up Daniel Sprong in like a highlight reel level pass. Chandler Stevenson was all over this one in terms of the passes. Brandon Montour and Yanni Gord got the other 2 goals. Montour's goal especially, he had this amazing burst of speed down the weak side of the ice, and like all of the Nashville players were not expecting it at all. It was so awesome. He came in completely unchecked and just tapped it in off a pass. Super, 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 super good game for Chandler Stevenson. Super good game for Montour, and super good game for Joey, obviously recording a shutout. There were 24 shots, and I believe over 3 expected goals against him, and he stopped all of it. So, like Alex was talking about, like we were talking about in the vibe check, Joey Decord, absolutely unreal. This game was the game where the 3 stars were Chandler Stevenson, Brandon Montour, and Joey Decord, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, absolute just Ron Francis clinic of a game, because it just shows the additions and the new contract are just peak performance right now. It's that underlying core that we were talking about. It's just this underlying core of midness. It's just, you just don't even want to get your hands in there to deal with it and see what's wrong, honestly.
But isn't this entire team like Ron Francis's fingerprints is all over it? Because he's the only general manager that's ever been with the Kraken. So regardless of who was, the top 3 stars, it would have Ron Francis's fingerprints all over it. So
Ron Francis in the past might have made bad decisions. We know Ron Francis right now is making good decisions.
Daniel Sprong.
For me, the big highlight of this game is Chandler Stevenson. He assisted on all 3 of the goals that were scored. That goal from Daniel Sprong, his no-look dangle pass point blank on the goalie off to Sprong on the side. I have that bookmarked for when we do the Squiddies at the end of the year for goal of the year. It wasn't an amazing goal because of Daniel Sprong. It was an amazing goal because of what Chandler Stevenson did to set it up. The dude's been awesome this season. He is just the assist king, putting out assist after assist after assist. Sure, he's not putting up maybe the goals and points that we want him to with the big checks that we're writing out in his name, but he's making plays and he's making that action happen.
Daniel Sprong. I just remember we were all talking about it being like, we just want a Sprong goal, because we just want everybody to say ding dong, Daniel Sprong, he's back, he's back, he's back. And then he finally scored. And I sarcastically said, if Daniel Sprong scores tonight, I'm going to buy myself a Sprong jersey. And lo and behold, he does score. I'm still not buying a Daniel Sprong jersey, but it is what it is. I'm really happy to see that Sprong's back with the team. I really think his vibe fits well with with the Kraken, and you could tell that he really was sad when he had to leave. So the fact that he's back is all positive. And I don't know, it just feels like since he's come into the lineup after he, escaped Canada, the vibe within the team just feels a little bit stronger, and team's vibing.
Yeah, most of my notes for this game were like Stevenson, Joey. It's just like those two were so good. That the pass to Sprong, I've watched it, I don't know, too many times, and I still cannot imagine how he actually made that pass to him. Like I have watched it and studied it. I just don't the level of talent in that pass is just beyond my comprehension. So it's really amazing. And the other thing to mention too is that UC Saros was really playing also very well. He was a brick wall. So I think that there is like something to be said too that we were able to break through that. He did not make it easy. So this was a good game overall, a lot because of that. And you just really can't not be impressed by Joey in that one. Like he just, just eye test, but I think the players feel confident when he's in net, and I think that shows as well. So great game overall. Next game, though, the Kraken went to Los Angeles, played the Kings. This was a loss 2-1. I actually missed the first 10 minutes, but when I turned it on, it was clear that I hadn't missed a whole ton. And the shots were 5-4 in the first period with no score. So I was like, well, I didn't miss a ton. In the second period, the Kings scored. It was about 4 minutes and 18 seconds. And you know what? The defense looked pretty good during this goal. There was a beautiful pass made, and it just went by the skates of Sprong to Alex Kempe, and then he just got to the slot and was able to hammer it home. So it wasn't a bad goal on our part, really. There was also this weird, and I think probably soft goalie interference call on Yanni. I'm going to call it that because he was sort of pushed into the goalie. I didn't really feel the call was super warranted, to be honest. But again, who knows what goalie interference actually is, as we've talked about. So it's a crapshoot whether or not it's going to be called as such. So that resulted in a power play for the Kings, and that got them their second goal. Joey kind of lost sight of the puck in this one. He was trying to see around the screen, and just at that same point, Kevin Fiala was able to make a pass, and it was to Quinton Byfield, who then just was able to squeeze it through. So it sort of was a myriad of things, but basically the screen kind of messed us up there. Monty's slap shot to finally get a goal in the third was great, though. It was a little too late. There was only 1 minute and 34 seconds left in the game at that point, but I did like the offensive pressure that the Kraken put on in the last half of the third. But where was that all game, After Monty's goal, Sprong, Lars, and then Monty again all had really good looks. Monty's hit the post, in fact, but nothing really came from those. The Kings they're a great defensive team. Coach Campbell had a second intermission interview, and she was saying that the Kings really like to slow down the opponent's game. And that's really what happened here. They clog up the neutral zone. They block the passing lanes. And something interesting, too, is they had 5 forwards on their power play. And I just have to say, our PK was super lackluster against each one of them. And also, what's with our power play? I keep thinking about this, is it getting worse over the season? We can talk about it, but I feel like at practice, it actually looks really good. And I don't know if that's because our PK is so weak that the power play looks good against it. I don't know if that's it, but I just feel like at the beginning of the season, they were at least kind of setting up a power play and we could kind of see the plan. And I don't know that I see that anymore. So I think they're going to come home after this game and after the Ducks and just sort of really work on that. But overall in this game, just not enough players net front, not enough players getting to the slot, and not enough help for Joey in this one. But Joey still looked great. So that was basically the Kings game through my eyes.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, lately it does seem like the only team that the Kraken offense would look good against is the Kraken themselves. Yeah, that was just a little dig I had in mind. About this game, though, not a lot to say about it. The expected goals were 2-2, so I think that LA cashed in on theirs, and we really just weren't able to cash in and get that second one for us. The Montour goal actually was very low expected, so but that shot by Byfield, I think it was a one-timer. Is that one?
Yeah, from the side. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was an unreal shot and just squeezed by Joey. Without that unreal shot, it stays 1-1 and maybe we hit OT. Or it's 1-1, maybe we hit OT. But yeah, gotta shake it off. It is the Kings. They're a really good team. So I think most people were expecting we would lose this one.
Yeah, when Heather said she missed the first 10 minutes, in the back of my mind, I was just like, did you though? Did you miss the first 10 minutes? Because this was kind of a snooze fest of a game. There wasn't a whole lot that was happening. Brendan Montour getting that goal in the last couple minutes was great, but it's just too little too late. Couldn't finish that off. And then just the penalty discipline. I'll agree that, like, I think it's a soft one. Again, I have no idea what goalie interference is, but he was like ushered directly into the goalie and they called him on it. And then so a Yanni penalty leads to a shorthanded goal against us. So I think I tweeted out like, "Who saw that coming?" Because not me. That's just kind of been one of the narratives for the season is we take silly penalties and then we get punished for it. So, not the most exciting game. Had a couple decent moments, but I'm glad that one's kind of done and over with.
And we're going to go right to game 22 against the Anaheim Ducks because I didn't get to watch the Kings game. So, in a 3-2 win, thanks to all who joined on stream. And yeah, we are now officially 6-0-1 when we live stream games. So, if a game, you're not going to the game and you want to hear us talk, like that is the time to do so because we are a good luck charm. We are a magical horseshoe for the Kraken. So positive vibes there. Now, moving forward, when we talk about this game, the breakdown, Shane Wright has finally returned from his long awaited sentencing off in the press box. He will no longer have to eat popcorn and stale chips and pop. He was on the ice, and oh boy, did he deliver. He delivered because he was the one to open the scoring in the first period. Hashtag Heather was right. And I know that she has tons to talk about when she starts, when we break this game down a little bit further. But as the game went on, Trevor Zegras responds in the Trevor Zegras way when he plays against the Kraken and he ties the game up. The only goal of the second period came from the Ducks off an unfortunate rebound off of Joey. So, and then, we're sitting there in the second intermission going, the Kraken really got to show up here because we're playing the Ducks. Like this is not a good team. They're a mid team. This is a mid off. Come on, let's figure it out, boys. The Kraken delivered. Kraken rallied in the third period with 2 goals from the one and only Andrei Burakovsky, the missing man himself. He finally scored a goal, and to everyone's surprise, it was a game tying goal, and that is just pretty insane. And then the game winning goal comes from none other than Monty Mania. Brandon Montour, gets the go-ahead goal early in the third period, which turns out to be the game winner. Just an exceptional game by Montour yet again. Now, this was enough for the Kraken to hang on to the lead and secure the W. Overall, not the most exciting game, but the Kraken showed up for the 3 minutes that they needed to and securing the win. So positive vibes all around. One key moment too that we would want to definitely look at was Ty Karche taking an interference penalty, and he ended up hitting Leo Carlson to the ice into the post of the Anaheim net. So a huge scuffle ensued, and there was a lengthy review, which nobody knew what was going on. But it was deemed that Karche did nothing at all to deserve additional discipline. It was just a really nice hit in an unfortunate area, and Carlson had to leave. I don't know if he left the game, but he had to be escorted off the ice. I do know that most of the Ducks players were not happy with the situation, but at the end of the day, it was just a really nice check from Karche.
I do want to talk about the game before I talk about Shane Wright a little bit, though, because one of the things that was like sort of laughable was the fact that we hit the post so many times. In fact, Bob Woods during intermission, they asked him about it, and he even chuckled himself because it was like, how can the team have such luck that we're hitting the post this many times and none of these are going in? Like it is so wild. I also wanted to point out that Everett Fitzhugh got to do the play-by-play calling on the Kraken Hockey Network, and he did a great job. Like he usually does it on the radio. So I just love that he got some screen time because John Forsland had national game duties. I just wanted to point that out because we love him, and he just did such a fantastic job. So just shout out to Fitz. But let me get to Shane Wright real quick here. I'll try to be quick. But first thing I want to say, though, is that he handled being benched so well. Like he handled it so maturely, especially for being a 20-year-old, and he had a really good positive attitude about it. So I think he did take it in and sort of see how he could then slot back in and make a difference, which is what I really wanted him to do. Sit around and see what the shortcomings of the team were to see how he could then go in and make a difference. So things that he does really well are getting up front, and that's exactly what he did to get that goal. Getting to the slot, winning faceoffs, those things he just does so well, and he came back in and was able to execute on those. I think, his goal, it was kind of fun because Riker actually set the entire play up, and it was just, I don't know, Riker's just so good and so calm, and so he just executes so well. But he set up the entire play. He got the puck to Bjorkstrand, and then was parked right in front of the net and just was able to tap it in. And then later on Monty's goal, Shane Wright actually won this key face-off, got the puck to Monty, and I just loved that. So he was really making a difference. And I think, returning to the game and getting 2 points on the night just shows you like this is where he should be. I do think he needs more time on ice, like 14, 15 minutes at least. Like he's getting 12 minutes. He needs more than that. So to me, I'm like, move him up a little bit, build his confidence, because I think he started off the season super confident and then sort of lost that along the way and was really struggling. So build up his confidence a little bit more. And I think, he needs that going into next season when things are going to really start to be a make or break for him. Like this season, it's his first season really playing the full season in the NHL. Next season is the one that we really have to look at and see like, what is the actual skill here? What is the hockey IQ here? And I think both are high. I just think he needs a little bit more time to play with these players that are going to elevate his game. Don't put him on the fourth line. Like, don't move him down, keep him up, keep him playing more. And I think we're going to see a big difference from Shane. So getting off my soapbox, but glad Shane Wright is back. And I'm just thrilled about his 2 points on that game.
Heather was right. Never forget.
Never doubt me.
Never.
Ever.
Yeah, it seems like you're some good juju for Shane right there, Heather. Since we didn't burn a year of his ELC last year, his contract year won't be for another 2 years. So we really do have next year to really sit and evaluate him, to make sure we're doing what's right for Shaner. But I do want to talk about something you said, Heather, about Shane Wright kind of sitting back and having a cool head and level head as he had his break here in the press box. I don't really think that's something that Shane Wright would have always done. In fact, from scouts that were evaluating his last year before the draft, they kind of considered him a pretty egotistical player. He had a hot head, and he kind of thought that he was going first no matter what. So a lot of scouts said that he let off the gas a little bit. And and then we also saw it at the draft when he was picked by the Kraken. He was staring down the Montreal Canadiens. He was enraged. Modern Shane Wright, I think, has been humbled by that experience. And I think he has grown, and he's so young. Like, he's so young, but I think he's already learned that like life lesson, I guess, where now he's able to handle something like having your NHL games taken away from you at like 20 years old. Like, that's insane. That's insane to have like that sort of like being out there in front of everybody just ripped from you. And he's taking a step back, and he knows he needs to like earn it. I think he knows that now. And I think that's really good. A lot of positives about Shane Wright. I think he did double his season points in one game with 2 points. That's also pretty good. Other than that, yeah, absolute mid-off this game was. Yeah, Brandon Montour is dope. That's all I have to say.
Yeah,
I have to say one more thing. Sorry, I want to say one more thing about Shane Wright, because I have to piggyback off what Derek was saying about his maturity level. Like, this is what I'm talking about when I've said, like, he's grown so much and you see it on the ice. It's also in these things too. Like, he just is a completely different person. He grew, he learned a lot. He watched the other players. Like, he really just has become such a mature player in like on and off the ice. So 100%, like he has been humbled, I think, from that. And I also think like he's just really had some good advice from the players around him as well.
I'm just going to continue on this train of Shane Wright because I feel like we've really haven't discussed Shane Wright as much as other players, but I don't think they're utilizing him in the best spot. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this because we're going to be talking about one player who recently signed a contract, and it wasn't a short-term contract. It was a long-term contract, and it was for a pretty penny. But in my opinion, Shane Wright is not being utilized well enough on the third line. If you want him to really improve his play, throw him in the deep end, throw him in the depths, beneath the waves. Let's go wild. Let's get crazy here. Throw him on the first line, throw him on the second line, make him struggle and give him the opportunities to really find his game and like really tune in that game. Now, having said that, there is a player who has been gifted top line minutes, in my opinion, and I could already hear the hate coming from, and you're screaming at me from, your headphones, your car, the train, your walk to work. I can hear it. But Matty Beniers is making $7 million this season, and he's not performing like a $7 million player. He's playing like a third line player, in my opinion. So here's my idea: flip Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. Give them an opportunity, change it up a bit. Show Matty Beniers that, yeah, you're making the money. We're giving you top line center money. You're not playing like one. Prove it to us. On the opposite end, hey, Shane, we know what you can do. Show us. 5 games, 10 games. Let's see what happens. But I think it would be really good and beneficial for both of their growth and their hockey IQ and their development. Because let's be serious here. Beniers is still young. Wright's young. Change it up a bit. Like, just make it interesting, because I feel like that type of healthy competition is something that would really benefit these two players for the future.
So I have 3 people that I want to highlight from this game. First being Andrei Burakovsky for finally scoring a goal. It was a god awful, ugly goal that like bounced off his shin or something like that. But hey, it counts as a goal. Second person, Brandon Montour. The highlight of his goal when he takes 3 strides into it and just absolutely uncorks a missile towards the net. And you have Eli Tolvanen jumping in a high of a tuck jump as he can to get his shins out of the way and not have them get exploded and it going in. That is awesome to see. And my third person I want to highlight, I'm really surprised Derek didn't bring this up in the vibe check when he was highlighting people that he's psyched on, is the Connor McDavid of our team, Riker Evans, who has 10 assists and 3 goals in the season so far. He had 2 assists yesterday, and we were talking on our stream yesterday that having him paired up with Adam Larson just seems to be absolutely awesome for him. He has this veteran presence on his line with him who's going to help him out and bring him up. We'll see what happens when Vince Dunn returns and how it shakes out with how things have been going. But Riker Evans has been pretty hype for me. I've been pretty psyched on him.
He's already reached his career high in points. Last season, he had 9 points with the Kraken. He's got 13. So he's already on a career year trajectory. So sky's the limit for one Mr. Riker Evans.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's currently ranked 35th among all NHL defensemen in terms of points, which is unreal given how young he is.
I want to go back to Matty Beniers combo just for a second. So I think a lot of people look at his play and they say that he's doing a lot of things that aren't showing up on the score sheet, like he's being defensive. And I agree with that completely. But what I think is the problem is that if you're being paid that much, you also need to produce on the score sheet as well. And I think that's where we're having the issue, is that you need to be both if you're going to be paid as much as he is.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If he was making, $4 million on like a 2-year bridge deal, then this wouldn't really be a conversation. But once you have that extra price tag, once you're $7.14 million a year for like 7 years, then you have expectations. And defensive forwards are not expensive. You don't pay a premium for defensive-minded centers. That's like what the center position is for defensive-minded players generally. Same as defenders. You don't pay a premium for defensive-minded defensemen. That's just what they're there to do. You pay a premium for offensive-minded centers, offensive-minded defensemen, because they're rare and it's hard to do all of that, right? Beniers is marketed as like a two-way center, which is the most premium center position because he can do it all. He's the full ice player. The problem is he's mid on the offensive side, pretty good on the defensive side. But yeah, at that price, it's just gotta have more offense. And he's being ushered into this leadership role. He's given this big contract. So much expectation. And really, we haven't seen the performance match that really at all. And I completely agree with Alex swapping him onto the third line. Maybe even God forbid, healthy scratching him a game, bring up Ben Myers again, healthy scratch one game, only one, only one, only one. Yeah, send a message, get him fired up, just like Shane Wright was probably fired up internally. Got to do it because this isn't working.
Well, like Alex almost fell out of his chair there on the Zoom call with that take you had there, but I don't think it's a bad take because if we look at the Dan Bylsma press box tour, he sent up Oliver Bjorkstrand and Ty Cartier, and they both scored and assisted in the game that they came back. He sent up Shane Wright. He scored and assisted in the game that he came back. So I'm just gonna say, we send Matty up to the press box. He comes back down the following game. That second game against the Sharks, he's getting a hat trick. It's gonna happen. Dan, Disco Dan, we know you listen. We know this was playing in the locker room right now. Make it happen.
Also, just really quickly, from all four of us right here, can we all just like agree? None of us dislike Matty Beniers personally.
Of course not. We love
Absolutely
Maddie.
not.
Of course not.
That guy.
Okay, buddy.
Just kidding.
We need to
Gotta
bring
use
up
the
we need to
bullhorn
bring up the
now.
horn for that.
Yeah. I just think we expected the bridge deal because that was more appropriate at the time. And I think that's why we're in this position. Like we just really expected more from him if he was going to be paid that big money.
Yeah, this will all come back to Francis being stuck in a corner, trapped in the corner, and instead of, offering that bridge contract, he offered him, all the money in the world that he could offer. And, it's nothing against Beniers. If I'm Beniers in that situation, I take that money and I run.
100%.
So 100%.
Exactly.
So,
That's kind of what I want to get at. It's not on Beniers, it's more on Francis.
No.
no,
Agreed.
for sure. I think, but the problem now is that with that money, you are a first line center. Like that's what happens. You're making that much money, you can't be a third line center. But in a situation like this, sometimes it needs to be done just to give a little bit of a nudge to say, we know what you're capable of. Prove it to us. Because if not, there's going to be players that are hungrier and possibly, develop even better, i.e. Shane Wright. We don't know what his ceiling is, and they're going to take it from you.
All right, and then for returning listeners, off the top of the episode, you might have noticed that the mailbag did not occur. It turns out there were actually hiccups with the Canada Post strike. It was causing interruptions. Yes, Derek, I'm still continuing with that bit. But we decided to pivot and make it a little different this week, and we are having a Beneath the Waves Thanksgiving, with this week being Thanksgiving for our American friends.
Normal people, you mean?
Just Thanksgiving.
I didn't say American
Normal
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
I said Thanksgiving for our American friends.
That's because I deleted American from in front of Thanksgiving on the prompt.
My notes are up here.
It's American Thanksgiving.
Anyway, we wanted to take a chance to gather around our Zoom dinner table, carve up some turkey, and share what we are thankful for this season. We put out the call on our socials, and here are some things that our extended family had to say. You know what, Thanksgiving, you always have like the aunt and the uncle to show up that you don't see every so often. This is the aunt and uncle of Beneath the Waves. So we started off with Thomas the Tumorigenic on Blue Sky. They are ever thankful that the Kraken can play Brandon Tanev and Yanni Gourde on the fourth line. I think we're all big spicy line advocates here. We're big fans of the spicy line. Gwen in Doubt on Blue Sky is thankful for Brandon Montour, and that was agreed with by Lord Snorkel and Bitterlina, and Yarn Geek on Twitter agreed with that. Seattle Kraken France, or Seattle Kraken FR on Blue Sky, is thankful for Monty and Joey. And Upside Down Stevo on Blue Sky is thankful that Kraken hockey is back and that there is something to watch and talk about while Australian hockey is out of season. So a little extra international flair at our Thanksgiving table. So I have the carving shears. Is that what we want to call them? The knife?
A knife?
Knives out.
Knife?
No, but it's
is
like
the
the
American word.
like the.
Hey, buddy, I got the carving shears over here. It's time to carve up the turkey, hey, bud.
Okay, anyway, this Canadian slander I will not stand for. Who would like the first slice of turkey on their plate and let the group know what you are thankful for this Kraken season?
Okay.
Derek, do you want
Yes.
white meat or dark meat?
Both.
Okay, here you go, bud.
Thank you. True, but maybe a little sappy. I'm thankful for both the Seattle Kraken and all three of you guys. And just I guess the PSF app. Yeah, just the whatever in the universe caused all four of us to all converge on our paths in life at the same time. Um, yeah, and be here today talking. That's awesome, and I'm super thankful for that. In terms of the Kraken alone, I guess I'm thankful that Dave Hackstall's gone. So yeah, that's that's what I'm thankful for.
You know what, Uncle Steve? I'm really glad that you dumped Aunt Brenda and she's not around anymore.
Pretty much.
Who would like the next serving?
I guess I'll take the next serving, though I'm scared that you're using some sort of shear to cut the turkey with.
Really, dude, the shoes are
Yeah.
weird.
Well, what's the freaking like oscillating turkey carver
Shears
thing
are
called?
shears are for like sheep wool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe oh, whatever. Heather, what are you thankful for? I'm thankful for this transition.
I'm thankful for my serratedly cut turkey. This might be super sappy. I'm just thankful that there's Kraken hockey in general, that there's hockey in Seattle, that we have an NHL team, and I'll probably continue saying that until the end of time, just because, it's something that took a lot of power and a lot of people and a lot of community to come together to bring this team here. And, it came into my life when I was dealing with some significant losses in my life and I needed something so badly to focus on and obsess over. And that was like when they announced that the Kraken were coming. And so since then, I never watched hockey. I just dove in and was like, this is going to be my new obsession. Little did I know it would bring me to being this obsessed and spending so many nights with you three, but I am thankful for that and thankful for our listeners that enjoy hearing our hot takes and wild shenanigans and everything else.
Alex, do you want scalloped potatoes or mashed potatoes on your plate?
Definitely mashed potatoes.
All right, here you go, dude. I
Getting
hate
those
you guys.
Weird
Garden
Canadian
shield.
Thanksgiving.
Why are you
Is
carving
invading our
your
American
potatoes?
Thanksgiving.
Potatoes are also cut with the serrated.
Hey, bud, you got to
blade.
put your potatoes through the shears, man.
When it comes to the thankfulness of a Canadian, because in Canada we are also thankful. I have to say definitely that bring the crew here with the beneath the waves. That's something I'm very thankful for because thank you for putting up with my ridiculous shenanigans that I've always provided. But it's that sense of community that we can really dive deep in when we all have a similar love of the game and for the team itself. And it's been really cool to see that grow over the last year and a bit, especially with this community and just the Kraken community in general, even as an outcast all the way out on the East Coast here. For the Kraken, thankful for the youth movement that's going to happen in the future. As much as I can be critical of Ron Francis and how he creates rosters at an NHL level, he is a mastermind and he has a beautiful mind when it comes to drafting and developing young talent. And what the Kraken have is beautiful young talent, and it's going to be very fun to watch in the years where Ron Francis is no longer a part of the team. That will be a very fun time to watch the Kraken. But, you got to give it to old Ronnie right now because he's doing what he can.
Sure, I'm just gonna serve myself and go sit at the kids' table because you're supposed to. Oh my god!
Like just
Sorry.
are you
I
talking
was
about
t-
like the electric knife? It's just like
Yeah.
an
It's like a
it's literally an electric knife. Like there's
Can-
no
can we-
special
It's a
fancy
lightsaber?
name for
It
it.
sounds like a lightsaber. It's like
That
No,
just seemed like a chainsaw.
It's a chainsaw.
Oh my god, I hate this so much. Back on Canadian Thanksgiving, I put out a tweet from the account that I am Canadian thankful for you three because in the previously mentioned initial iteration of Beneath the Waves on a different app, it was just you three. And then one day I kicked in the door and hopped on and had faulty AirPods and cursed and then I came back the next game and the next game, and you just like I was the lost little puppy that you guys took in and knew nothing about hockey, but learned as we went and were incredibly patient with my learning of the game and things like that. And then just seeing how this has blossomed into what it's become with like people buying t-shirts with our logos on it. Like that still blows my mind that we were at that level. bit.ly/btw store. if you want to get in on that. 30% off on Black Friday. For the Kraken, though, I am thankful for the Ron Francis checkbook because he brought in Brandon Montour, who has been an absolute stud. He has brought in Chandler Stevenson, who was so divisive on free agent frenzy day and people saying this is a waste of money. Why are we paying this much? This is a bust. Yeah, Derek's raising his hand because that was him shouting it from the rooftops. That was Alex too. Yeah. But he's contributing to the team. Like I said in the game recaps, he's the assist king. He's setting things up and he's starting to figure things out. Joey Decord, Heather asked if he was Superman earlier. I mean, we saw him come out with those Meta Ray-Bans glasses when he was eating the fish. Dude looks like Clark Kent and he's playing like it. And then we still got a little time for Matty to play up to those big bucks. But I like the youth movement that Alex mentioned, but also spending some cash to bring in some heavy hitter players, which for the most part seem to be working out. And with that, I'm going to take my pumpkin pie and go up to my room and cry because I've just been bullied this entire dinner and I want to go back to Canada. This doesn't happen at Canadian Thanksgiving, okay?
You started it, so it definitely must start at Canadian
I don't even want to
Thanksgiving.
know what goes on at Canadian Thanksgiving, okay?
Seriously.
Why don't, speaking of those young guns coming up before, Heather and Alex, let us know what's going down in Coachella Valley.
It is Desert Dialogues. So, this era, we recap the Coachella Valley Firebirds and see what's happening with, the younger talent that is with the Seattle Kraken down in the desert. So, Wednesday, November 20th, against the Colorado Eagles, there was a 3-2 loss in the shootout, unfortunately. Now, Colorado opened scoring with their first goal just a minute and 8 seconds into the first period. And about a minute later, there was a big scuffle. Gloves were dropped. Ian McKinnon and Keaton Milton of the Eagles earned themselves 5-minute major penalties. Luckily, the Firebirds survived the 4-on-4 and went into the second only down by 1. John Hayden, oh yes, Mr. Bodyguard, tied the game early into the second period. He had a beautiful wrist shot that just blew past the Eagles goalie. And this was his second goal of the season. Keep note on him. He's definitely a perfect player to call up to the Kraken in the event of, a Jordan Eberle injury. Edward Chalet was awarded a penalty shot with 3.5 minutes left in the second period. However, his backhander just went wide of the net. The Eagles had a terrible turnover in their own zone in the final minutes of the second, and Luke Henman to take advantage and just hammer the puck home. That gave Coachella the lead as they went into the third. However, just 2 minutes into the third, the Eagles did tie it up, and the game just couldn't be decided in regulation, so it did actually go to overtime. And just for anyone not aware, in the AHL, just as the NHL, it's a sudden death overtime. Even though the Eagles had a power play part way through OT, no one was able to hit the back of the net on either team. It was off to a shootout. The first 3 shooters for the Eagles were all able to get the puck past Alice Setska, but unfortunately, Miners stopped all 4 of the Firebirds shootout attempts. That's a loss for the Firebirds. However, they continued their point streak, which was at 6 after this game.
After that, they played against the Gulls, and it was a 3-2 overtime win. The Gulls opened scoring with 2 goals in the first period, and then the Firebirds were unfortunately down by 2. But about 5 minutes into the second, Ryan Winterton won this massive puck battle to get the puck to Edward Chalet, who was in front of the net and able to cut the lead in half with his goal, and that's actually his 4th of the season. They went into the third down by 1, but Yanni Newman scored on a well-timed power play goal to tie the game. And then the Firebirds survived 2 penalty kills in the third, one of which was a double minor for high sticking. And one of the penalties that was taken in the final 2.5 minutes of the game. So I don't really like that because that's such a Kraken thing to take a penalty in the last 2 minutes of the game. But the Birds did survive and even drew a penalty themselves. And so they ended up starting OT with 50 seconds of power play time. They couldn't capitalize on the man advantage, but once the power play expired, Jager Furcus got control of the puck near the front of the net, and Gustav Olofsson ensured the puck went into the net by tapping it home. It was pretty cool. We weren't sure if it was Furcus or Olofsson at first, but good job either way. And the Firebirds now have a 7-game point streak, And just notable that they also battled back from a 2-goal deficit, which is something that we really love to see, especially, with the things the Kraken have done. It's nice to see that. But that also makes Nicholas Coco a perfect 6-0-0 on the season, which just keep watching him, because I think he's just a fun player and he's really adjusting well from playing in Europe over here in the US. So just really cool. They are actually currently playing tonight, and last we checked, it was 5-2. This is Tuesday, November 26th. They're playing against the Tucson Roadrunners. Wednesday, the 27th, they play against the Roadrunners again. That happens a lot in the AHL. They'll have these like mini series. And then Saturday, November 30th, they play against the Texas Stars. The Firebirds will be returning home to Coachella Valley for that one.
And just a little update on the top Firebirds for this season. Ryan Witterton leads the team in points. He has played 14 games and he has 12 points on the season. He actually registered an assist tonight so far in the game after 2 periods of play. So he currently stands with 5 goals, 8 assists. Edward Chalet, the man, the myth, the legend, who most people expected him to be back in the OHL, has been making some noise in the AHL. He's played 12 games, 4 goals, 7 assists for a whopping 11 points. And finally, the Circus Furcus is live and well when it is in Coachella Valley. Yager Furcus has played in 14 games this season, 15 now technically because he's playing tonight. He has got 4 goals and 6 assists for 10 points. Just another echo on Nicholas Coco, 6-0-0. Unbelievable start to his North American career, and that's definitely a player that you're going to want to keep an eye out, especially going into the summer and seeing what happens. If he continues this type of pace, it's going to be kind of hard to really determine if he's going to be a backup per se, or is he going to be the starter. It's going to be very interesting. On note as well, currently as it stands, in the AHL standings, Firebirds currently sit 4th in the Pacific with 19 points. A win tonight would project them to 21 points, and they would be sitting in 2nd place. They currently stand 6th in the Western Conference. They do trail the Wranglers, who have 27 points, the Barracuda with 20, and the Eagles with 20 points apiece.
That'll take us to the sound table. Our weekly recap of all things outside of the Kraken organization in the hockey world. Starting off with a follow-up to last week with sound table topic number 1. Jim Montgomery is no longer on the unemployment line, as he is signed as the head coach of the St. Louis Blues only 5 days after being fired by the Boston Bruins. Montgomery replaces outgoing Blues coach Drew Bannister, who has led the Blues to a record of 9-12-1 in this season. Blues GM Doug Armstrong said that the decision was completely based on Montgomery becoming a free agent, so in my eyes, he basically dumped his current coach for the newly single one that he's always had his eyes on.
That's harsh,
man.
But tell me I'm wrong, based on what he said.
It's
You're not
100%.
Based.
Could you imagine? Just like, hey, yeah, we really need to speak to you. Like, hey, Drew, come on up. Hey, what's wrong? Well, so Jim Montgomery got fired, and we kind of want him. So, like, you're out of here. Like, could you imagine being, Drew Bannister in that situation? Like, that's harsh.
I'm doo-doo. 9-12-1, I'm doo-doo.
I'm just mid.
I imagine Armstrong and Bannister like standing side by side at the bar, and Bannister's kind of like ticked off with him, and he's just there to fulfill his duties. Sees Jim Montgomery walking through the door and just like pushes Bannister aside and walks across the bar to his new head coach. It's Soundtail topic number 2. On Saturday night, Joe Thornton had his number retired by the San Jose Sharks. He is the second Shark to receive this honor after Patrick Marleau. In his 15 seasons with the team, Jumbo Joe recorded 804 assists, which is number 1 in franchise history, 1,055 points, which is number 2 in franchise history, 1,104 games played, which is number 3 in team history, and 251 goals, which is number 4. So a nice 1, 2, 3, 4 stat line there for Joe. Joe ranks 14th in NHL history with 1,539 points and 7th in assists with 1,109, and he enters his first year of Hall of Fame eligibility next season.
This is gonna be Berkeley Catton in like 18 years. Also, shout out Patrick Marleau. He played for the Seattle Thunderbirds, which is like 20 minutes from where I grew up, and I saw when his number was retired with Seattle. Just a little aside, but yeah, it was pretty cool to see in Kent.
really cool to see Jumbo Joe watch his career, because I still remember when he started his career with Boston, and when he got traded to the Sharks, it was kind of one of those moments where you're like, wait, what? And that beard alone deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, Google it, because Jumbo has a jumbo beard.
Honestly, that was the only thing that I could contribute to this was his beard. It's really notable.
Next topic. Keeping up with the old guys, and the 2024 Hall of Fame inductee Pavel Datsyuk has walked back his 2016 retirement, and he signed a one-day contract with the Detroit Red Wings to retire with the only NHL team that he has ever played for. In 953 games with the team, he tallied 314 goals and 604 assists. The Red Wings made the playoffs in all 14 of his seasons, where he played 157 games with 113 points, including 32 goals, and winning the cup twice, once in 2002 and once in 2008. I always like when teams, be it like football, basketball, whatever, they have that one day signing with the club so they can have like a meaningful retirement.
I definitely still think that he should have gone into the Hockey Hall of Fame as an Arizona Coyote, because his contract got traded to them and he just kind of withered there. So, but no, Datsuk was one incredible player. If you haven't seen some of his goals, when he was in the league, outstanding player, just an absolute workhorse and deserved Hall of Fame inductee.
Keeping things a little more current with our next topic. On Saturday night, Sidney Crosby became the 21st player in NHL history to reach the 600-goal milestone. He now joins Wayne Gretzky as the only players in NHL history to record 600 goals, 1,600 points, 3 Stanley Cups, and 2 Conn Smythe trophies. Pittsburgh is also now the second team in NHL history to have 2 600-goal scorers. We know who the other one was.
It's me, Mario.
Oh, it was Mario. That was just weird. I just wanted to let that fester for a moment.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that I think for a long time coming, Sidney Crosby and obviously who we got coming up to talk about next. But Crosby and Ovechkin have just been, absolutely battling their entire time in the league, and now it feels like it's kind of like coming to like its rightful like poetic justice end, where now we've been talking about Ovi on weeks past and him chasing Gretzky's record, and now Sid, doing things that only Gretzky did. And yeah, they're both just kind of finishing out their careers, like slowly like leapfrogging Gretzky right at the end. So it's kind of cool.
It's definitely weird though, because like these guys I remember watching when I was a kid. Like Crosby entered the league when I was like 12, and I think Ovi was like I was 11 when he entered the league. So like
It's like 40 years in the NHL. That's kind of crazy.
But like to now like witness it, like like seeing the end of their career now and being like, it's been an incredible career for both of these Hall of Fame players, and they're still delivering this late in their careers. It's so cool to watch, because you don't get this from a lot of NHL players anymore, especially in the tail end of their career. So it's so much fun to witness.
And that'll take us to our last point on the sound table. Our frequently recurring final point is the Ovi record watch, which is now officially on hold because Ovi will be missing 4 to 6 weeks due to a broken left fibula sustained in a game versus Utah last Monday. Very upsetting to hear that. This 4 to 6 week break will be the longest stretch away from the ice in his entire NHL career. And we just hope that he bounces back quickly and can keep hammering shots in from the left circle.
Who's going to stand in the left circle now, though?
I don't know,
the real
but
question.
That's got to be like the ultimate baton passing. Like, you inherit this precious ground.
Sacred. I don't know who's going to be there though.
I think they just put like a spotlight on it the whole time, and just no one's allowed to touch that part of the ice.
Can't skate in there. It's voodoo if you skate into it then.
Yeah. And that'll do it for the sound table this week. Hey, Heather, do you want to let us know what the Kraken slate looks like for the week ahead?
Absolutely. So because we streamed Monday night's game, and since it's Thanksgiving week, we aren't streaming any of the remainder games this week, but the Kraken are playing. They're back at home on Wednesday the 27th to play the Ducks again at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Also, it's Bowie bobblehead night, which is super fun. So the first 10,000 fans will get one of those beauties, and they are really cute. Have you seen the reel of Bowie brushing the hair? Because it's
like adorable. 1,000 hairbrushes.
Yeah, it's adorable. After that, the Kraken play on Friday the 29th. That is a matinee game against the Sharks for Black Friday, and that starts at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. And then finally on Saturday the 30th, they play against the Sharks again, and this one's back at CPA, and it's at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
And maybe the unofficial segment that everyone looks forward to the most. Derek, do you want to let people know where they can find us on other spaces?
Yeah, they can find us at beep 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 BTW SEA. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube. Check out our store. Matt, what's the link again?
bit.ly/BTW store.
Dope. Please drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice. Thank you for listening. Love you all. See you later.
Later, folks.
Release the Kraken, we going beneath the waves, going.